This is it.
Totally.
It really is.
Awesome. Welcome to this very spooky Halloween edition of your CPS Policy and Equity Committee. Nobody wore costumes, but we are all matching in black. We are matching today, which is nice. Okay. So we're going to dive right in after we do a quick round of introductions, as I like to do. So we're going to start with Rob and go around the room.
Board Administrative Assistant.
Shauna Murphy, Chief of Student, Family, and Community Engagement.
All right.
Rhonda Thomas, District Parent Champion.
Awesome.
Dr. Kareem Moffitt, Board Member.
Mike Morosky, Board Member.
Eve Bolton, Board Member.
Dan Hoying, General Counsel.
General Counsel. Counsel Director, Treasurer, Chief Financial Officer.
Kathy Grable, Executive Secretary, Office of General Counsel.
Awesome. Well, we're going to start with one of our most favorite things to do in policy, which is approve alcohol waivers. Mr. Hoying, do you, or is anybody, do we have the waiver? Yeah, should be. Are we not?
It says the event is not yet live.
Yeah, it says no attendees.
You are not receiving any video. It says it's recording. It says broadcast on. I don't know. I'm not watching.
You have the right one.
Me and Dan's screen, it says it's not live. Yeah. You all in the same policy meeting, or are you in finance committee?
This is the Halloween edition.
It is the Halloween edition. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to do that all over again.
You got this. It says
No,
none
we have
there.
0 up there.
Are you in the right meeting, Rob?
You're looking at me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
You're looking at
don't
me,
even.
look at
I don't
you.
even
I
know.
noticed nobody's asking me because I wouldn't know one way or the other.
I think you may.
That's not a good conversation to kind of come into.
Told him no. There it is. Welcome to your special Halloween edition of the Policy and Equity Committee. Sorry we're a few minutes late. We had some technical difficulties. So real quick round of introductions again, starting with Rob. There it is.
Phyllis Davis, Board Administrative Assistant. Rhonda Thomas, District Parent Champion.
Shauna Murphy, Chief of Student, Family, and Community Engagement.
Dr. Kareem Moffitt, School Board Member.
Mike Morosky, School Board Member.
Eve Bolton, School Board Member.
Dan Hoying, General Counsel.
Stephanie Scott, Assistant General Counsel. Wagner, Treasurer and Chief Financial Officer.
Kathy Grable, Executive Secretary, Office of General Counsel.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here today at our committee. So we're going to dive right in. Our first agenda item, one of our favorite things to do in this committee, approve alcohol waivers. And we have our friend Chrissy from Kilgore. I understand Kilgore is celebrating a birthday. And we have a resolution in front of us. Chrissy, would you like to tell us about the party and what you need from us?
Absolutely. Yes. Hi, I'm Chrissy Little. I'm the president of the Kilgore Foundation, and we are celebrating our 100th birthday this year at Kilgore. And so to celebrate, yes, a lot of years of a great school. And so to celebrate, we're having a birthday party, and we wanted to be inclusive of everyone, students, alumni, neighbors, friends, and we wanted to, when you come to a party, we didn't feel like you should pay. It should be free cake, free snacks, free drinks. And we have a video that we've produced to kind of celebrate. We've got some alumni who are in the video, some kids in the video, and we will at the event make an ask. We have done a lot of improvements. We finished our playground, we added a turf field, but there's kind of a second part of the playground that we're looking to finish, some enhancements to the library, that sort of thing. And so we'd love to be able to serve beer and wine and Capri Sun, which I don't think you probably care about that part. But those are kind of the highlights.
Great. Awesome. And so see if my colleagues have any questions. We have a resolution. And then, of course, the way this would work, Chrissy, as I think you know, is if we pass it out of this committee, it'll go on the board agenda, hopefully for Monday. It should be an easy turnaround, and then we can approve. But questions? I know Ms. Bolton may have one.
I always ask, it's beer and wine, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
There it is. Dr. Moffitt?
No, I don't have any questions. Congratulations,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming that our invitation will be coming. What happened, Rob? What you got? Hi, Chrissy.
So
Hi,
yes.
Chrissy.
Okay, so
I don't have any other questions.
no questions. Great. I don't have any questions either. So it sounds like we're good with moving this out of this committee then. Colleagues,
Yep.
cool. And we can. I know it's a quick turnaround, Ms. Davis, but we can get this on the Monday and then cool. Great. Nice work. All right. Well, let's keep going. Let's see if we can get through everything that expeditiously. All right. So we have a lot of continued discussion. Last month's meeting was great, and there were a lot of really important policies. Thank you to you all for being here today, and thanks to Dr. Moffitt for making sure we had the right folks here today as well. And so a lot of these policies obviously fall in y'all's wheelhouse if there are questions, but we kept talking about community engagement, sort of community-facing policies. There's Chrissy again. So Chrissy, the only thing you missed is we are passing this out of this committee
Great.
to the board
Awesome.
Monday. And then Dr. Moffitt did have a question, I think, about your invitation.
I did. I said congratulations to Kilgore and you all, and that I assume our invitation is coming. It's going to be in the mail after
That's
Monday.
right.
There we go.
That's
All right.
correct. Yes,
Congratulations.
absolutely.
Pending-
We'd love to see you there.
Absolutely.
Pending we approve the alcohol waiver. Yeah. All right, Chrissy, thanks so much for what you do at Kilgore.
We would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Great. So the first agenda item was the continued discussion was the MOU memorandum of understanding regarding the school resource officer program. I don't have any continued discussion at this time. I learned a lot the last time. There are some things I'm still kind of gelling on, but I think, the thing that came out of the last meeting that resonated with me the most, and I'll just say it again just to repeat it, was that I understand the state of Ohio has mandated, certain curricular activities regarding kids interacting with cops. And just to reiterate, the issue I take with that, I don't think that's bad, to be clear. But the issue I take with the state of Ohio and with that conversation sort of writ large is it's always about kids interacting with cops and not adult officers interacting with young black children. And that is as, if not more, important, in my opinion, and statistically. And so I think it's good we're going to have those conversations, but I would just like to ensure, and this is probably more curricular in nature, but I just wanted to bring it up again, that we have that at front of mind. But I don't necessarily have continued discussion with Ms. Bolton.
I know we have another year on this particular agreement, and I think it's 23 or something, and there might be, I think we suggested some adjustments in some of the language as you go forward. I do have a little bit of an update from the curriculum folks and some other folks up in Columbus regarding the course. The course that we're talking about, actually, it's supposed to definitely start like next year, and it's a mandatory kind of thing, as we said before. And it really is not necessarily what I was mentioned quickly the last time we met, as much as understanding the rights and what have you. And that will happen in government class. This, too, will be absorbed within the social studies department, but it actually really is about relationships with police officers and certain things. And the first draft that I guess went to the state board for curriculum review and public comment was way too heavy on the police element and angle. So it has now gone back to the curricular folks.
Cool.
And even some of the Education Standards Board, and it'll be coming back to the state school board and hopefully be done before we can, start. But the public comment was that it was way heavily weighted towards the police officers, and on the you're right about on black minors and teens and what have you. But also one of the other great issues I know we all hear about is all minorities, especially our international. Our refugee folks, our immigrant folks. It's very important. So this is going to be a good course. Social studies will be absorbing it for next year. And the first public comment made it go back for revision. That's so great. You're not standing alone on that.
That's great. I really appreciate that update, Ms. Bolton. Dr. Moffitt?
So I think that it was really, really good to have Mr. Bell here to kind of answer some questions, and I share my sentiments. I share some of the same sentiments that my two colleagues have also shared, so I won't repeat them. But I do want, just to add 2 points, I want to differentiate the word minority. I was at the executive meeting for the NAACP yesterday, and a point was made. When we say minority, we're lumping in some groups that are doing better than others, and it kind of waters that down. So I want us to, with intentionality, remain focused on Black student interaction with police officers, and then we can name those groups, but there's disparate treatment there, and I think that needs to remain consistent. I also think that we need to kind of keep this. I don't know if it needs to be brought back every month, but it definitely needs to be revisited, I would say, at the early part of next year so that we can kind of keep some momentum and connectivity with it. I thought that we should have brought this up. I thought that we should have some discussion with our young people around it so that we are kind of a trilogy. If they're getting it in the classroom, they have the community, but then they're also having some interaction with us about school safety and interaction with officers. But nonetheless, I think we just need to keep this in the forefront. And I thought it was great having Mr. Bell shed some light on that. Well, so.
Absolutely. I agree with that as well. Ms. Bolton?
If we can be explicit, that's fine, but it will include all minorities as well. And frankly, many young people have the same issue, but not to the degree that we all know and understand or try to understand. The other thing is that money line in there, that they can stop it at will based upon their budget. So whatever we renegotiate with them going forward, that can't be a caveat in that. Is ultimately what would happen if indeed they stop. So, thank you.
We feel good to move on to policy 2261.01. Good. So this is the one that came up last month with, I believe, is Ms. Bolton and I's favorite policy that we have been fond of saying over the past few years, at least, that if we were to follow this policy to the letter, we would probably have no complaints from parents ever. It's a lengthy policy. It's titled Parent and Family Engagement in Federal Programs. As wonky as that sounds, it is largely just about how the district interacts with families. Obviously, we have this lengthy policy because we do have a lot of federal dollars with Title I, more so than, say, a wealthier district out in the suburbs or a rural district, perhaps. But it's a good policy, and we wanted it on here because as we were talking about a lot of our other parent-family engagement policies, community learning centers, et cetera, it came up last month that this was germane to that, and I know Dr. Moffitt was interested in checking it out as well. We had just gone through this. Our chief internal auditor was kind of given a task by President Lindy when he was on this committee to go through this chunky policy. So we've been talking about it, but it's on the agenda today for discussion if anybody wants to have the discussion, if you had a chance to look through it. I know I have because we just recently did this, but I wanted to turn it to Dr. Moffitt or Ms. Bolton and see if there were anything you wanted to add. I don't know that we need to necessarily recommend changes to this. I think a lot of it is we have to have in here, but I think it's just good to note that we have this policy. So I'm looking to y'all if you want to share.
So, do you want to go first, Board Member Bolton?
No, you go.
Okay, so I like for us to develop policies with the people that are in the ground, in the trenches, working through it to see if it's effective. So that's why I invited our parent champion and Mrs. Murphy to come. I don't know what your new title is.
It's okay.
I'm working on it. So because I want to see if what we're intending in this policy is actually effective. Do they need to have changes made? So I'm going to ask them to kind of, I know you all work through this policy and then the other one regarding parent-family engagement, which is 9140. Do you see anything in here that needs to be improved upon, clarified? And I will say this, I was at the Council of Great City Schools for a conference a couple of days ago and was asked specifically and referenced the Cincinnati Public Schools engagement policies for the community and for families. And so we are yet again trendsetting, which is a good thing. But I do want to defer to the experts who are using it. What do you all think about?
We deeply appreciate this invitation, and this is a new title for me, but not new work. So I appreciate being able to be at the table. I will start by saying the superintendent has asked us to create a family and community engagement plan, so that should be coming your way fairly soon. We've been working for a couple of weeks on it, but I do know that Ms. Thomas, who has been in this role about a year, has some ideas for some things that could be considered by this committee, and so I'll let her share what those ideas are.
So looking at the policy.
Ms. Thomas, pull the mic just closer to you.
Okay, so thank you. So looking at the policy, I definitely feel that is spot on with the work that I do in the community with the parents. Their concerns are just making sure that they have effective communication at the schools. So when we're having parent meetings, knowing where that information is held. So as I was looking at here and making sure, the strategies and effective parent engagement, when we're talking about training our parents, all those things we are currently doing now. So I really don't see in this particular policy areas that I would add or even change in this one, because I feel this is, and I did read it, very closely, and looking at it and thinking about the experience that I've had with all of our parent chairs and our parents within CPS. So this one I actually feel is good. I definitely, again, I just want to emphasize that as we move to the other policy, making sure that we have information for our parents in a location where they can find it easily accessible for them, making sure that there's multiple ways to communicate with them, platforms, things of that nature that would better enhance our engagement. I think our next policy will kind of go over that a little bit more. But this one, I feel is good.
I want to insert a quick question, if it's all right. And it is to the general counsel, assistant general counsel. Is this, and I appreciate hearing your perspective on this, is this policy even something we can affect? Like this, is this language ours? I didn't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to double check that. All right.
20 U.S. codes.
Okay, I just want to clarify. Okay. Good.
But
It's
the
good
other
that you like it.
policy,
Because
yeah.
of the event.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it we like. I just wanted to.
Oh, dang, we got to go to
Double
the
check.
federal
Ms.
government.
Bolton?
Yeah, I think hold it as it is. I
It
don't
is.
even know if it has our own number. I mean, it's
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if we see it as policy or what's that. What is it compared to? We know it's the standard by which if we're going to be spending Title I dollars, we have to be doing this. And very frankly, we are not doing it as well as or as detailed as this policy indicates. So knowing how much how many of our schools and students receive Title I, there's a whole list of community engagement, family engagement. I'm thrilled that it's been mentioned that there's going to be this plan developed. I would hope in that plan starts with a citation of multiple board policies, because that's what it is. And the citation of the multiple would include certainly this, if it ever actually is a policy. I think it's given a number.
It's got a number.
It's
2261.
Okay, good. That's not just the code.
No.
So this
It's similar to the code, though, which is confusing.
It is.
It's very confusing.
It says code. So
It really needs.
it says code.
But you're saying that's the number. I'm going with it.
Oh. Well,
But I would say that on that engagement piece, I would start obviously with this one, but that one should also, a family piece should also include LSDMCs, because parents are supposed to be there too. That should include the whole community learning center piece, because that's part of engagement. And then there's any other number of engagement pieces. So as long as that plan kind of starts with it, and this is the standard, and we have these other items that we are talking about and have been talking about, community engagement, and I think with the work of some folks 2 or 3 years ago, we also updated the full engagement policy as well. That's more general community engagement rather than just kind of internal. And that, frankly, came as a result of City Council not doing theirs
That's
for almost 7 years. Remember that? 'Cause it
During
was,
FC Cincinnati.
yeah. So I would say that
Yeah.
look at that one
I
because
remember
it's
that.
probably the most recent, and it really was specific to us, but not necessarily about parents or internal as much as it was about the concept of community engagement, that we should be committed to that. And
Yep.
I think that was an important one. So that's great that you're going to come up with a plan and start with all these really good policies.
I think you'll be pleased. The goals and strategies do call out community learning centers and LSDMCs both.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
To that end, and unless there's other questions from my colleagues about this one, do you mind if we just skip around on this continued discussion and go straight to the policies that are related to this conversation, like CLC? Okay. And then we can end on remote work, which will be a quick, easy conversation. That was a joke. We'll go to 7,500 then, the CLC, Community Learning Center. And this was, Ms. Bolton brought us a lot of history. Assistant General Counsel brought us some history last time, which was really, really helpful for me. I don't think it's any secret at all. If this is shocking to anybody, then, I guess you're not paying that close of attention. But our community learning centers are not all created equal. Some are certainly better than others. Some operate a little better than others. The policy, however, is currently designed, I feel, to promote the successful functioning of the CLCs. And so there are some things that were added based on last month's discussion. So we'll bring it back. And as always, turn to my colleagues, see who wants to share as we go. And then obviously we have our professionals here on the ground actually doing the work as well. So first I'm going to turn it to Ms. Bolton or Dr. Moffitt.
We'll let Member Bolton go first.
Or Member Bolton.
Community learning centers?
Yeah, we're going to do 7,500.
Yeah, would it be possible, any changes that legal put into it based upon our discussion, if you could bring us up to date, which ones those were?
Yes, of course. So based on the notes from last month, we added an intro paragraph that came from something Board Member Bolton provided. I believe it was a sort of guideline document or
The initial document.
Yep. So we added that. We added back some language that had been in a previous version. If these purposes are to be realized, that's in the third paragraph. And then we added student voice and students to the last two paragraphs. So those were the changes I caught from last month's meeting.
Was there a redundancy in the third and first paragraphs, red line version? Or did I? You can see I'm paper crazy, so I'm probably looking at 3-4 different things at the same time.
Yeah, there's some overlap to be sure, I think.
I think when we're at the LSDMC piece, we might be talking about lead agencies, but I don't know if the reference to lead agency is as strong in this policy as it probably needs to be, because technically, or at least in practice, the community learning centers have lead agencies, and as we've added resource coordinators. So it might be one issue. And I think even when we get to the as you say, we sort of skip around in that cluster. I think we probably have to have a lead agency reference come out in
this one?
in LSDMC and in the community engagement, because my understanding, like the practice has been that the LSDMC is the one charged with the selection of the recommendation to the central office, to the superintendent, to the board, whoever. It's not the board doesn't decide that, to the superintendent, but it's the LSDMC that is supposed to be interviewing possible lead agencies. And is that, I mean.
Absolutely, yes, correct.
Murphy knows this stuff in and out from all the work on the workbook and whatever,
Yes.
and multiple district wides.
Joiner?
Question, I don't know if it's appropriate for this policy or not, but Whenever we're having conversations about vendor versus employee, is it appropriate to require the lead agencies or the employers of the resource coordinators to provide training and technology? One of the definitions of employees, if we provide all their equipment and their training and their directions. So I'm wondering if that definition or that, and my question's for Dan, but if is it appropriate to put in the policy like this?
Here, where are you referring to?
Just, there's a lot of reference to the resource coordinator, and not all our resource coordinators are
Right there.
outsourced.
Yeah, all but 6 of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think we cleaned that up in the other policy. Just don't contract for the district necessarily, but is that your point?
Well, there's a financial implication. Well, if we have to provide them with laptops and training and stuff like that, so I'm wondering if it needs to be defined, or
Like defined in the sense of for whom they actually work or are employed by?
that their training and their equipment, all their stuff is to be provided by their vendor, not by us. I mean, by their employer, not by us.
Is that appropriate in here?
Either that or we have a contract. We have a partnership agreement with every
Okay.
lead agency that defines sort of.
That's
Just
standard
defines
language in
this.
there.
There is language about who's responsible for those kind of things.
And
I do have a question along that line on the back of this policy that you provided, the top paragraph. And this is for clarification because I don't know, but it says it shall be the responsibility of the resource coordinator to develop written agreements with the agencies and organizations that shall provide the services. And so when you say that the resource coordinators don't contract with the district, I kind of was confused too about then who's providing what. It's not clear to me on who's providing what. Just from that paragraph, I had that question. So I, too, am asking the question about accountability and who's paying for who for what, and are they entering the resource coordinators who are an outside agency or employed by an outside agency actually committing the school and the district to something by writing those? I don't. I'm just.
could I start
talking
an
out loud.
answer on that?
Yeah, of
Just a
course.
historic one. It was just, that's the initial confusion about this whole thing. Because when first designed, the community learning centers would have a lead agency. They would have this possible resource coordinator that really works in tandem with the school and one plan and the principal and whomever. But initially, the lead agency paid for that person. So you had that independent, outside, real community involvement or state.
Yeah.
What has happened now is that, for the most part, through Title I dollars or whatever, I don't know which title it is,
21st century grant.
21st century grant or whatever, this money is now money that comes to us that we actually pay for the resource coordinator, but the resource coordinator is also supervised by various lead agencies. And now we have lead agencies that have 8 or 6 schools or 9 schools or whatever. So none of this is operating on the original piece.
Okay.
And for that resource coordinator to negotiate these things or deal with the lead agency or represent or however, or partners or whatever it says there, I think you probably should add with the resource coordinator, the principal. I mean, it should be the resource coordinator and principal probably would help make that easier for people to understand. But we do have to have a big discussion about how we can get back to never maybe the original concept, but to Mike's point, how we can get to where you have great community learning centers in every school. We almost have them in every school, but some of them are better than the others, and we have to figure that standard. But yeah, I think we have to figure that. There has to be some kind of reference as to the new kind of setup. But
Go to Jen and then President Sellers.
Thank you. So them obligating agreements on behalf of the district, that language has me a little worried. So something that further defines that approval process or that obligation process would be very helpful.
That's why I brought it up. I was
Yeah.
like, this
Yeah.
doesn't sound right. Oh, wait.
May I?
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, in the initial agreement, our team works between that lead agency and the school for that initial MOU between the two. So it's not necessarily just the resource coordinator, because most of the time the agreement about who the lead agency is comes before the agreement about who the resource coordinator is.
Good point.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
And what Shauna said is absolutely correct. But now, like what Eve was saying, now I think CPS is paying for most of the resource coordinators. And do those dollars go to the lead agency?
Yes.
Or do they so CPS pays the lead agency, and the lead agency hires the person?
Yes, the lead agency invoices CPS for those services, and then we go through our procurement process, and we pay to the lead agency, not directly to the resource coordinator.
So then how is there accountability for what we're expecting?
So that's our job too, our team's job. So each of those resource coordinators has someone on our team who works with them regularly, who meets with them. We also have monthly meetings and trainings with those new resource coordinators. The newer ones, 1 to 3 years, meet with us twice a month. And then we also have monthly meetings with the lead agency executive directors. And then I go out and visit with each of the executive directors.
Any other questions right now, Dr. Moffitt?
Well, I just think that this is not ready to go because
Oh, no.
That top paragraph on the second page needs revision, and maybe even just reflection of what is actually happening is more applicable, because this doesn't read the way that Mrs. Murphy described it. And I just think we need to reflect what's going on. I mean, it does, but it just needs more.
But it's different at every school.
I was going to ask, can you clarify what you mean by that last piece? Like, are you suggesting that in the policy there be language that is reflective of?
I think what I'm saying is that top paragraph bothers me.
Oh, me
because,
too.
For a multitude of reasons. Because I don't know if it's really representative of the way that it operates on a bigger level. Yes, ma'am.
I think this might help to clarify. So after our team works through the original agreement with the lead agency, not the resource coordinator, the lead agency, moving forward, once that resource coordinator is hired, then that resource coordinator is responsible for the other MOUs and agreements. So say there is an after-school coordinator or a mental health partner, or there's a school-based health center, then it's that resource coordinator's responsibility to take to the LSDMC those agreements after the LSDMC has said, yes, these are the other agencies we want to work with.
Okay.
Who pays for those services from the other agencies?
Yeah, so we don't pay for mental health. We don't pay for school-based health. We don't pay for after school. So what I think is also missing that our team has to work to identify is all the other resources that the lead agencies bring to the table. Tutoring services, ballet, piano lessons, and all of those dollar amounts that are maybe in kind to us because we provide the resources, the students, the space, no overhead costs. I think a lot of times we miss those benefits that our children are receiving, and we're so focused on the dollar amount that we're sending to that lead agency that the overall value that we get is, in my opinion, nothing compared to what they're bringing to the table.
The one concern that just popped in my head about that relationship or that scenario is that we're not vetting those sub-vendors through our vendor investigation.
But we're not vending with them.
I know, but they're providing services in kind.
But the agreement is with the lead agency, and we do work closely with the lead agency, and I don't want to mess up, so I don't.
No, it's okay. We're going to go to Ms. Bolton real quick.
I think
This is
that to the point in that first paragraph on the second page, the issue of review and accountability if you just can build, that can be a sentence or so in there. I don't want to put too much procedure in it. Because
No, I
to
don't
Julie's
like that.
point, part of the beauty of this is that, it's going to be different in various schools, and we want that. And to Jen's point, I seldom disagree with Jen, but the centralization thing scares me as much as not having centralization. So this and this, and I know it's the same for you on that one. But so whatever we describe, if we can get the accountability piece in there and this lead agency, finally, I will also say the point that Murphy has brought up is age-old problem with this. We need a map for every school of all the services that are in that school, like the superintendent is, and they're working on it. The superintendent's talking about that audit and all that other stuff, she says, and ad hoc, which is about instruction. We really need to see all the services being provided, and because nobody's ever been able to tell us, even remotely, the value of these services that our children are getting that we couldn't possibly pay for beyond what this system does. So if we can build that in, and you guys are working on that, that's great.
One more comment, then we're going to move on from this one. President Sellers?
Do have that list. And I do know that many schools bring in, for the investment of one resource coordinator, they're bringing in like $3, $4, $5 million worth of services.
That's wild.
So it is a bargain, pennies of the dollar, and it's something that we don't have the capacity to do, and that each school needs to do it based on what their school needs for their students and their families.
And that would be,
I love it.
That would be a great story.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
That's been great for 15 years.
Yes.
But it just needs to be said. But I do have a question.
Exactly.
Just
I
one
used
quick
to
question.
sell it all over the country and world. I've been to South Africa and the UK and everywhere talking about it.
To our community.
Our team went.
yeah, in our city, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, our team got an opportunity to go to a conference this past summer, a school community engagement conference. And, every conference, there's usually a breakout time by state. And everyone wanted to learn from Cincinnati Public Schools. It was so magical and so amazing. So we've since built a network of people, and we meet pretty regularly. It was a gentleman, I can't recall his name now, that is very fond of Julie, and Julie has spoken highly about the Community Learning Center model in her travels. We appreciate that. Yeah.
We need you in Cincinnati talking about it, but I have a question.
All right, we're gonna
I just have one question. So, and this is a curiosity question, so don't kill me for asking. But when we say, and I know that there is inequity amongst what goes on at our schools regarding the community learning centers, would it be helpful to provide some framework for consistency so that we can be a little bit more equitable? I'm asking, I don't know, so that we can maybe get some equitable opportunities. Yes. I'm sorry.
I think that the schools who don't have as many services and they're not as robust, they are either beginning, because you can't add everything in 1 year, and so they are emerging. And I used to carry a list of every school, and I used to say resource coordinator. I had a list of resource coordinators, and if they were emergency, fully operating, or if they didn't have one. And so when we were talking about making sure students have what they need to be successful academically, I would look to see if they even, first thing, do they have a resource coordinator, and do they have a community learning center? But all of that is based on the LSDMC.
Yes.
And so if a school does not have a good, strong LSDMC, they're not going to have a good, strong community learning center. And that was one of the things that I was doing with parent engagement, was we were doing trainings for schools who didn't have community learning centers to help them to get an up and running LSDMC. And that's what we should be focusing on right now.
The chair's not going to let me speak, but I'm going to speak anyway.
No, you can
I'm
speak.
going to say this very, very clearly. For 3 years, this board and through the administration has been rebuilding LSDMCs, has been rebuilding and reconsidering CLCs, and talking in terms of this family and parent and community engagement. All of that is part of it. Julie's right. AFT, CFT have been our number one supporters to get this communicated. New York City, their entire system is built around the Cincinnati model. That's true for Memphis. It's true for almost every place that has this. It's called the Cincinnati model. So we're real proud of it, but we have to make it as excellent as the original idea was, and people are working on it.
I'm sorry. I love this. I just want to remind this team, the board, because we started with one community learning center at Heberly, one. And then it grew to like 9. And then this board over in the last strategic plan said we want it everywhere. We are at one school that's never had a lead agency. We're getting there. There's been some turnover over the years, but nonetheless, we pick up right where we go. And I think to the conversation about centralized, decentralized, the power is in the LSTMC. And it definitely, and because the superintendent doesn't go out and vet these lead agencies, the school does, the LSTMC does. So.
Any closing comments? And I will always let you speak, Ms. Bolton. You know that. Same with you, Dr. Moffitt.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Always. Okay, so this is not ready for prime time. That's clear, but it's close. We're getting there. This was a good discussion. And, the next one is directly related. So, and I'm going to actually look at our two friends over here from admin. Do you feel that the most organic policy to discuss next is parent-family engagement or LSTMC?
Parent-family engagement.
All right. That's why I asked, because I was going to go to LSTMC. All right, so before we get to y'all, I know there will be questions. So for the parent-family engagement, looking at our council team, is there anything we need to know that is different about? I know there's a couple things. Anything we need to know about that one? Sorry, it's skipping around. 9142. No, I'm sorry, 9140. 9140. There's a lot different in 9140, actually.
There is. These reflect a lot of discussion. I'll bring it up on the screen as well. But there's a lot of discussion in the last meeting on 91. Stephanie, do you want to?
Sure. I mean, we can there was a lot of conversation about using the word caregiver, so the title kind of reflects that was a suggestion.
That's right.
In regards to that. And then there was also conversation around engagement versus participation. So we kind of used those. So we added that word. We didn't necessarily replace engagement, but added the emphasis on participation there in the first paragraph. And then you'll also see the emphasis on caregivers again and participation in the third paragraph. And then there was some conversation last time in regards to the kind of equity and so on and so forth as far as family engagement. So we did reference our equity policy, which also calls out to encourage involvement of all families. But then also there was a discussion last time about certain marginalized communities, and so we called that out as well. And then I think the rest of it was kind of more so nuances in as we were talking about the bullet points.
The one other area I highlighted
Yes.
for the benefit of the treasurer and the committee was there was a reference to the district will pay the annual PTA membership for each school to have an organized parent organization in every school. So I highlighted that just to ensure that was the intent of the committee.
So I'm sorry.
Yep. Well, we can start with the we'll start with the treasurer, and then we'll
Great, but whose budget? Sure, you include this in the budget.
The engagement division department,
You got it?
right? They volunteered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just want to make sure because I get calls all the time like,
It's new for us too.
Do my colleagues have questions about this?
can we start this?
Yeah. Right? I mean,
Well, okay, Jen, hang on. No,
plan on it.
Dr. Moffitt, Ms. Bolton?
I have a question now. Can we use like some ESSER funding for it?
ESSER funding's going away. So if it's
No.
a policy,
Well, no, I meant to your question, I'm sorry, of can we start this next year? Like, could we use ESSER funding now if there was a need for it? No?
no, because you're mid-year and any influence now would be a then and now. You can't use state federal grants for then and now.
Okay.
Sorry.
That was my question.
Ms. Bolton?
I like the changes that resulted from the discussion. I think you all captured them.
Mm-hmm.
These are vast changes.
Stephanie
Nice
did it.
work. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
We're one person. We're one person.
You were listening. I do want to ask though, again, the people in the trenches that are doing the work. That's why I invited them, because I wanted to hear if this speaks to what you all see or the needs
Yeah,
that
what
you
do they want to
experience.
change?
Yeah, it does. The things that I would definitely, as I reviewed the policy and I looked at it, and I love that you all started to look at the wording of how we identify and address our parents. I use the phrase parent, guardians, and caregivers because each individual plays a different role in the family. So I want to make sure that we pay close attention to that. But then also kind of going down to participation. I use participation, but I use engagement. And what I do is when I'm talking with my parents, I explain to them and I describe to them what engagement looks like. So in regards to the change or the addition that you all have added, I would definitely say if we can just make sure that we're keeping the language even consistent, because even as we're going to a policy, I refer my parent chairs back to the policy and making sure that our language is succinct as we're going through, so all of our parents are on the same page as well in regards to that. But in regards to for our parent groups, I think making sure, well, I don't want to say think, I know making sure that our parents have parent organizations at all of our schools is critical to the success. We know that to the success of the student, academically, social, emotionally, but also it builds a community for the parents to be able to find support and resources. So in regards to the policy and looking at some of the things that have been changed in there, I am fine with the changes. I would say kind of going down to where we talk about our marginalized populations. I would say, can we spell that out? Because we have SEL families. I don't want to leave a family out, even though we are referencing a policy. I want to make sure that we're inclusive to our community and that it is spelled out in that space. Also, I think it's important if we're talking about that as a district, we're going to have a parent group at each school. We need to make sure that there is a demand or ask that all of our schools share this information and the location on their school website. And again, I don't know if you feel this may be in the weeds in regards to, but I'm just kind of telling you from working with my parent chairs and the list of things that they have shared with me that are important to them to be able to drive traffic into their parent spaces. Also the concern in regards to making sure there's a space in the school for them to do their meetings at.
And this is great. We don't want to get too deep into procedural stuff, though. I trust you to do that, and I trust you to do that. I don't know that we need to discuss that here, though. So, but keep going, though, if you have anything else with the policy.
Okay.
Well, one thing you said, just to take it a step at a time, you said on the first page, marginalized populations such as our LGBTQ families. Are you saying to stay more there?
Stay more there.
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
So we're going to include our second family,
ESL?
Yes.
Our ESL?
Yeah, at our ESL families on there, and I can even go back and I can send some more information, but I want to make sure that my goal is make sure our parents do not feel excluded when they see a policy, that they see themselves in the policy as well, and not having to go to policy 2257 to read more about it in this one. And then I'll kind of go down a little bit more in regards to there is definitely, I don't know if this is in the weeds again, so please correct me, but when we're talking about technology, so for our parents in regards to having an effective parent group, there needs to be access for technology in regards to email systems for our parents to be able to communicate effectively and efficiently in those spaces. And again, this could be in the weeds, but again, I'm just kind of going off of what I'm reading here and wanting to be able to create a space where there is an actual policy that a principal would look at and say, this is what I need to do to make sure I have an effective parent group.
No, and that's exactly what we want. So my question to you would be follow-up. so regarding like the space piece, do you feel that, noting the district will provide physical space, et cetera, to meet is spelled out enough? But the technology one is interesting to me. Is that spelled out enough in here, do you feel? And so.
Go to the top. The very first line, providing consistent
No, yeah, I see that.
communication amongst parents. What could we say there?
I'm open to including something about technology, honestly. I think that's probably a sound idea. I don't know where, I don't have any suggestion for where. I'll look to Dan. Yeah.
Procedure, that's resources.
I mean, we called out in the, below the, I can bring it up, where we start with the paragraph that starts bolded, every school shall have at least one parent organization.
Yep.
There we call out physical space.
Yep.
So perhaps we also call out.
And then call it out there.
Access to,
Yeah.
Okay,
That
that's
work?
good. How's that? Yeah.
Cool.
The other thing I heard you say is to say, we're saying parent-family engagement, but you say parent, guardian, and caregivers. So can we just add those words? Parent, guardian, and caregivers?
Sure. That's fine with me.
My only reservation about listing everybody is that we always fail to list somebody. So, I mean, because marginalized, I think, captures more. We've dealt with this with the equity policy and a number of things because, a marginalized population is also our families that, are suffering from certain disabilities. It just gets to be where you're going to have a list that, and I think maybe there is an internal list, like principals. This is really, we're talking to everybody. But I don't think I'm on the majority on the committee. I just worry about that listing.
I'm curious, actually. I was going to bring that up too, so thank you. I'm curious, actually, if the fix there is scratching such as and just period after marginalized populations.
Do it the opposite.
And just leave it. Yeah. Okay. And then as far as then the wording change at the very beginning, parent, family, the suggestion was a parent, family, caregiver?
Parent, guardian.
Parent, guardian, caregiver. I think we do that. We axe the such as, we add a piece about technology. Then somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but this could be ready for prime time.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think it's good. I think we're cooking with grease.
Cooking? All right.
Wait.
One clarifying question
Please.
on the technology. I gathered as you were speaking that had as much to do with sort of means of communication to the parents in the school. So you're not just talking about like necessarily an email address, but like an email list of parents or the ability to jump in on a robocall or something like that. That's kind of what you're referring to.
That's correct.
Got it. Is that consistent with the board's, what the board thought? Yeah.
Ms. Murphy?
May I go back to Dr. Moffitt and Jen comment earlier? I didn't want to jump in while Ms. Thomas was speaking, but so we were talking about if we did pay for schools to be nationally recognized, that fee, we think based on the national PTO standards, there may be about 20 schools at this point who would be ready to do something like that, just to give you an idea dollar-wise.
What's the cost?
So we're researching that, and we think it is a very minimal cost. I don't want to say a dollar amount because I want to be very accurate about it, but we really think it's a very minimal cost.
Well, we will let you all discuss that, how you need to discuss that. So as long as our policy is enabling it, we're good
We're
today.
good. You got it.
All right.
Good.
Great. Awesome. Everyone good?
Yes.
Good. Look at that. All right. Taking care of business. And so do you think you could move that by Monday? If not, I don't care. I'm not, it's not.
Stephanie was like,
No. I just wanted to know, because I know Phyllis would probably ask. There's no urgency here.
No.
So we'll wait.
We'll do the next
Cool.
one. The
All right.
First board meeting.
Sorry.
Put them all together.
Yeah.
All these
We'll do them all together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will, cool. So that one we will vote on ultimately. And 9142, Local School Decision-Making Committee. There were some changes to that too. So does the council want to update us on any, not quite as many as the last one, but anything to
On the LSTMC?
Yeah.
No changes from the last meeting. The only red line changes to the policy, there were a few notes. One sort of English note where there was some confusion about where we're listing the composition of the LSTMC, and there was some confusion where we said the LSTMC should may select a member of the community council.
Oh, that's right. That was one. Yeah.
We got an appointee by the community.
That was my problem.
That was what it was intended.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And
We emphasize the fact that the chairperson should be a parent, legal guardian, or community member.
Perfect.
Yes.
on that, one of the issues is if there is not a community council, meaning, or an active community council, it may be a / community member, something, because not all of our, of all the 50-some neighborhoods, I think there's only 6 of the community councils that have even ed committees. So, I mean, just so it's community council or member where community council is not in existence or something.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you, or whatever.
Yep. I think that's fair. Yeah, that's right.
Sounds good.
Dr. Moffitt?
Those were my thoughts.
That was it. Ms. Murphy?
Just one thing under the composition, we kind of go deal with this almost every year, so this is excellent. The number 4, the number of students, but really my thing is the student representatives are non-voting members.
You want them to be?
No.
We do not want them to be voting members.
Okay.
I just want to be very, very clear.
Yeah.
Because in the past, we have said they have one joint vote, so there's been a little bit of confusion.
Correct.
So
No,
I guess this will clarify.
That is correct.
To be able to share.